Hello, my name is Father Tighe, and this is our 77th segment of our Journey of Faith in the Light of the Cross. And in this segment, we're dealing with the 12 verses added on to Mark's Gospel. So we go to the theme, and we see on the screen the transformed life of Mary Magdalene. It's all about Mary Magdalene. Witness the resurrection and the victory of the cross over original sin and the curse of shame. All right, now we go to our next screen, and we see Mark 16:9. The original Mark ended on 8, go to Galilee. After he had risen on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, from whom he expelled 7 demons. So Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, had gone to the tomb. Later in the day, he appeared to Mary. She reported to those mourning and weeping. They heard it but refused to believe, so nobody believed Mary because of her past. This later addition raised Mary's status because she had been put down because of her past life with demons. We go to our next screen, and we see there Mary Magdalene, not named in the tradition in 1 Corinthians 15:3, written in 54 AD by Paul. Paul introduces this by saying, I gave you what I received. That's the formula for a Jewish tradition in the rabbinic tradition. So he says, I give to you what I received. I did not add to it nor subtract. Jesus appeared to Cephas, then 12, then to 500, then to James, last to me as to an abortion. Mary probably was not believed because of her demons and her tendency to lie or be in fantasy. But her transformation over the years, over time, revealed God's redeeming power. Now we go to our next screen, and we see, nota bene, that's what NB means. This is important. Jesus came because all human beings are cursed with shame of original sin. We all have it. We believe this as Christians. But people resent it. They can't help it, resent it. They feel cursed by unfairness. This is unfair. They can't recall a guilt of anything they did that deserved this. Jesus comes and vindicates their feelings. He says, you're right. Nobody deserves the effects of original sin to live with the curse of shame. However, he and suffering servant of Isaiah were free of guilt, but they allowed God to use their heroic suffering to redeem others. This is very important. Jesus fulfills the prophecy of Isaiah's suffering servant that just people who don't deserve it suffer heroically for others, and they redeem the lives of other people. Humans not guilty of shame of original sin, all right? But we go to our next screen. But the curse of original sin does provoke sins for which we are guilty. See, that's what happens. We simmer up inside, we boil with anger, and then we're doing things we know we shouldn't do, and that we are responsible for. The shame of original sin provoked Mary Magdalene into demonic behavior. She said, the heck with it, and she allowed herself to act out real anger and resentment. But Jesus inspired Mary to believe God loved her beyond her demons, and his love would redeem the curse that shamed her life. Mary believed God could use her public shame as a sign for others. Jesus often went out to people who had public naked shame, and they couldn't hide it. Therefore, they longed for Jesus to help them, and they allowed Jesus to help them. We go to the next screen. Mary left James' mother and returned to Magdala. She came from Magdala. That's why she's called a Magdalene. In Galilee, where she continued her spiritual growth. She grew so strong and such a wonderful lady, the Galileans eventually believed her resurrection story. Mary was like Peter. His shame caused him to deny Jesus and then Gentiles in Antioch. Also, Paul, whose shame caused him to persecute the church in toxic anger because of the conjunctivitis and psoriasis that publicly made him look terrible. We go on to our next screen. Naked public shame. Adam and Eve felt naked once they sinned, and they tried to cover it over. So they are reenacting original sin, Peter, Paul, and Mary. And this disposed all three to Christ and the resurrection experience. You got to be open to it. As the Galilean church saw the powerful life of Mary grow, they realized her public shame made her a sign of Christ's work to free all of the curse. Now, Galilean church raised Mary to a model saint because she was a sign symbolizing the work of Christ, and added these last 12 verses to Mark's gospel because they thought Mark left it unjustly that Mary left with Mary, the mother of James. We go on to our next screen. In addition, the church agreed with Mark that Jesus had given Galileans feelings and taste of God's presence. Mark said, go to Galilee because a special thing had been there. Jesus laid a foundation for the church. Thus, Jesus had prepared Galileans as a model of Eucharistic liturgy, Mass, for these same deep feelings which they experienced when Jesus walked historically through Galilee, disposed the Galilean community later on to experience the resurrected Christ and his presence in their sacred liturgy. So when you went and prayed with them, you felt the resurrected Christ present among you. All right, we go to our next screen. Now we get back to 16:14 in the addition. Later he appeared to the 11 at table and reproached them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. Okay, now this is very important. They're repeating what Jesus did during Mark's gospel. He said, go out to all the world and preach the gospel. He who believes and is baptized will be saved. He who disbelieves will be brought to judgment. Judgment does not mean condemnation, but they'll have to answer. All human beings feel cursed by shame inside them. But a lot of people can't hide it. So they accept it and they go to God. But if you can hide it, you're tempted to cover it over. But when you cover it over, this disconnects you from other people and you can't love nor communicate with other people. Shame curses all unless it is redeemed. This is what we believe as Christians. Now we go on to our next screen. Signs will accompany those who believe in my name. So after Jesus left, Mary was a sign that Jesus had worked there. They will cast out demons, and Mary cast out her demons and speak new tongues. They were not ashamed to speak the Greek language anymore because they spoke the universal language of love. In the Old Testament, under the limits and boundaries of the law, if you spoke Greek or any other pagan or Gentile language, you lost the sense of being Judaic. You were useless to God, but now you can speak freely and communicate in many ways to many people. They will plow, stir up serpents. Now this is translated often that they will pick up snakes or serpents. That's not what it says. When you do the work of Christ and proclaim the gospel like Jesus, you will get a reaction from some people who hate you, like the scribes and the Pharisees who thought Jesus was exposing people to the shame and the curse of shame. And they were used to covering over their shame. That's what the scribes and Pharisees always did. You stir up opposition and they spew their poison out at you. If they drink deadly poison that they spew out at you, they shall not be harmed. All right, so Jesus guarantees them. They will spew out anger. Just keep moving. Remember, Mark kept saying Jesus kept moving. We go on to our last screen. And we read there, they will lay hands on the sick and they will be empowered. It doesn't say they'll be healed. It says they will experience God's presence. All right, they will be empowered with God's presence. After the Lord had spoken, he was taken up to heaven. They went and preached everywhere while the Lord worked through them. Then he confirmed the word by the signs that followed. They had to pray and allow the risen Christ to be with them. And after that, they had to preach Christ and they had to allow God to do the work and give him the glory. Now we come back, and I hope you understand what our theme is. Our theme is the transformed life of Mary Magdalene witnessed the resurrection and the victory of the cross over original sin and the curse of shame. We go on to our next screen, and for our final screen, we see a hymn, a beautiful hymn. Just as I am without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou biddest me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come, I come. Just as I am, though tossed about with many a conflict, many a doubt, fightings and fears within, without, O Lamb of God, I come. We make no excuses. We surrender the things that bother us inside, and it liberates us to love and celebrate the victory of Christ. Thank you for joining us for this 77th segment. We hope you continue to make this journey of faith in the light of the cross with us.